Welcome to Tame Your Talent, and this is Go Time. Welcome everybody for joining me out here. Good to have you along, and people watching at home or wherever you're watching this from. This is Go Time, all right? We're talking about announcer training here, and you got to know what to do when it comes down to go time. First one thing I want to talk about is getting the attention of the crowd. So important for go time. In fact, before I get into this, I want to tell you a little quick story. My son was doing a presentation at school, and he had never done a presentation before. This is his first presentation that he wanted to do at school, and he didn't know what to do. So I told him, get their attention. Get the crowd's attention. Get the people, the kids, the students, get their attention who are watching you, okay? And so the way I told him to do it is ask them a question and get a show of hands, right? That's a super easy way to do it. How many of you out here have ever gone to a farm before? Raise your hand. And I forget what his story was about at that point, but what he had done was he got the crowd on his side. He interacted with the crowd by getting them to listen, by asking them a question to show their hands. Now, when that happens, as a crowd or somebody in the crowd, in the audience, you feel like you're part of something right there. Now you're part of what's going on. You have a vested interest in it. And so addressing the crowd and getting them on your side is always the best way to get it started. And some of the best ways that I've always done it, let's say if I'm let's say I'm introducing a band. We got a band on stage, they're behind me. I'm about ready to introduce this band and get them to perform, okay? And so I want the crowd on my side. So I could go right up there and do, all right, put your hands together for the band, whatever the name is. And, some people would cheer and some people wouldn't cheer. Some people would be paying attention, some people wouldn't be paying attention. Well, how do you get them to pay attention, right? So if I'm introducing a band, I would say something like this. Like, who's ready to hear blah, 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 whatever the name of the band is. So I'm not using the name. Let's call them the Joneses. Who's ready to hear the Joneses? And the crowd's going to probably give you a pretty good applause, a lot better than if I would have just went out there and said, make some noise. So they'll give you a little bit more. But then what I've done in the past with that one is like, so that is all you got? You people came out here to watch the Joneses perform, and that's all you're coming to the table with. Well, tell you what, we'll pack up the stage and go home right now. But I'll give you one more chance. Now, who's ready to see the Joneses? And the crowd will go absolutely crazy. It's guaranteed. It gets them on your side. It builds their attention. They're listening to you. They have a vested interest, and they're 100% into what they're doing. Okay, so that's for introducing a band. But I explained how my son did it just in class, how he asked a question about something, and it got the people on his side. And once they were on his side, he just was able to deliver his speech and talk about his program. And I think he got an A+ on the grade too as well, just by doing that. So 100% addressing the crowd, getting their attention. My goodness, that is one of the most important things. They will ignore you faster than you can shake a stick at them if you go out there and you just start reading from a list. Here's the list. Here's what I was told to announce. I'm just going to read it, read it, read it, read it. That's not going to work. That doesn't work. It doesn't get their attention. People ignore you. They tune you out. Your white noise doesn't even matter. So getting their attention. Have a plan too, all right? So if you're going to get their attention, have a plan. Even if it's a loose plan, just have a little bit of a plan of how you're going to get into this. What's your plan? So my plan is before I'm going to go out there, I'm going to have a plan to interact with the audience. So I'm going to ask them a question, maybe get them to raise their hand. And then after that, then I'm going to introduce the band, or I'm going to talk about what's coming up, and then I'm going to talk about the sponsors. Like, that's a game plan. And having a plan is going to make things a lot easier for you when you have a plan going into it. So when it's go time, and you're not just like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. It's go time. Well, no, have a plan and you'll do a lot better. Now, flexible and proactive. Now, I've come to events and they've had the biggest plan, the biggest idea to run this event this way, and this is how it's going to go, and this is what's happening, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do this, and you're looking at it and you're going, that's a lot of stuff. How are they going to pull this off, all right? So don't be the naysayer. Don't be the doubting Thomas and say, oh, it'll never work. Be proactive. Just give it a shot. But sometimes being flexible and being proactive at the time is going to work better for you in the long run, especially if the best laid plans sometimes just go awry, and that's just how it is. So if that happens to your situation, if you're going to be so bent on keeping it on order and on track the way it was supposed to go, and this is the time we were supposed to announce this, this is when we were supposed to do this, and it's not working that way for you, okay? Be proactive, because if you're just going to stress out over the whole thing, that's not going to help you get through the day. That's going to make it 10 times as worse. Now, one of the other things you can do when addressing the crowd is know the demographics. Read the crowd. See what the crowd is. Like, is the crowd high school, college students? Is the crowd parents? Is the crowd families? Who is the crowd? And knowing the crowd, reading the crowd ahead of time is of the utmost importance, because you might have to adjust or be proactive on how you're going to talk to them. Like, you could talk to college students a lot different than you can talk to family members or for parents or the elderly. It's not as easy. You have to adjust your game plan when you have different audiences. So reading the demographics and addressing the crowd, huge, absolutely huge. Being prepared. Let's talk about being prepared. How important is that? Hey, do you know by not preparing at all for an event, you're actually preparing, right? You're all, Brad, how do I prepare without preparing? How is it? Well, you're preparing by not preparing because you're preparing to fail. And it's harsh words, yeah. But by not preparing to do an event or being prepared when you're going into an event, you're preparing to fail. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to prepare to fail. You want to be prepared. So you must be prepared going into any event. And there's times when I was being paid a certain amount per day to do an event. And they're not paying me any extra money to do the event or to start preparing to do the event 5 days before I get out there. I'm not being paid for that. So I would stand my ground and say, you know what? I'm not going to do any work until I get to the event, because I'm not being paid until I get to the event. Is that going to solve anything? Is that going to help anything? No. In fact, that's going to be absolutely worse. That'll backfire. Because will you get that job again if you go and do a horrible job because you didn't prepare? No, you will not get that job again. They're not going to hire you to announce anything. Right? Because you screwed up, because you didn't prepare. So now, look, it's on you to prepare. You must prepare and do your homework. You have to, because you don't want to fail. You want the job again, and the goal is to get as many announcing gigs as you can. I mean, for the way I like to do it, I like to see 2 to 3, 4 to 5 day events every single month on my announcing schedule. And by not preparing to do events, that's not going to help me keep that number of announcing gigs on my schedule. It won't. It just won't help, okay? So talk about doing your homework. That's all about being prepared, man. Do your homework. I've done events where I've been given absolutely no information about what's going on, all right? The people running the show aren't giving me information. I'm not getting info from anyone at all. What do? Do your homework, all right? If the event has a name, plug it in, search it, find out, look at the history of the event. Do whatever you can to do your homework. If there's main sponsors that are shelling out a whole lot of money to be the sponsors out there, do your homework on the sponsors then. If you can't find anything on the event, do your homework. You must. You're preparing to fail by not doing it, man. Trust me, I've been there. I've been in that situation. And then condense your material. Please, for Pete's sake, condense your material. I don't even know who Pete is, but anyways, for Pete's sake, condense it. And here's the deal on condensing your material. I can tell you a million events that I do, big top dog events that are like on national television, where they give me a stack of material that's this big. How the heck can you go through a stack of material that's this big and be able to relate that to the crowd that's hanging out, or the event, or the people that are listening to what you're talking about. It's nearly impossible to do that. So siphon through it. So the sooner you get this material, the sooner you get it, the better you're going to be, because you can just go right through it. You can siphon through it. You can be ready to go, and you can condense it, because you have to condense your material. You got to be prepared, and being prepared is all about condensing the material too as well. Hellos and goodbyes. Let's talk about that, because that's important, because people who get on the microphone for the first time, I think I remember the first time I got on a microphone, I grabbed the mic and I said, what should I say? What should I say? What should I say? Hellos and goodbyes will fix that right there. That means you have an idea what you're going to say ahead of time. How do you say hello? How do you say goodbye when you're doing something? All right? That's important, because that's an icebreaker. That helps you get on the mic and start the day off. So what I like to do, one of my number one things, it's kind of a no-brainer when it comes down to it. When it's all the first time you're breaking the mic and it's a hello, love to start it out with a big hello, and then breaking down the schedule for everybody, and then breaking down a couple of the sponsors. That's usually one of my favorite things. That's a go-to for me. And a go-to is something as an announcer. You'll hear me talk about that. Go-to is a teachable moment. When I have a go-to, that's something that I like to say. That's something that's important to me. It's easy to not have to think when I have go-tos. I can just throw them out there in go-tos. That's how it works, okay? So you gotta have your go-tos. And my go-to is start with the schedule, talk about the sponsors. That's the way to do it. That's a good way to break the mic. And that gets you going. It gets you in a flow, you know, talking about interacting with the crowd first. So you break the mic by introducing the crowd. You ask them, hey, what's going on? How many people been here before? Is this your first time? Raise your hand, blah, blah, blah. Here's the schedule for today. Want to thank our sponsors involved. Look at that. You've just covered so much. You got the audience involved. You talked the schedule. You propped the sponsors. And you did that all the first time you broke the mic. So if I'm putting on an event and my announcer goes and does that right off the bat, I'm going to like that. I'm going to be a big fan of that. It's important. You know, that's stuff you need to do. You need to know how to get it started. And once you get it started, it kind of almost lays the groundwork for the rest of the day. Because now the rest of the day, you just know what to do. You can pepper in and talk about sponsors. You can keep reiterating the schedule. You can give updates, all that stuff to keep the flow going. And it all started with the proper hello. Audience was engaged. They listened to you, broke the schedule. You did all that stuff. That's important. That's how you do it. And the filling part throughout the day will come easy, because you've already set the tone with a solid hello and a goodbye. How do you end getting off the mic? One of my biggest pet peeves is when I finish announcing something and I try to talk about everything. I thank everyone. I thank the sponsors. I tell people the social media where to go to. I tell people the website. I break it all down. You say goodbye, travel safe, give them the directions out of the venue, and then somebody comes to you and says, oh, by the way, can you tell them one more thing? I love strong goodbyes. And you know what? Know what you're going to say to wrap up the show. Thank all the sponsors. Thank the athletes. Thank the people that showed on up. Tell them where to go, social media. Post the pictures. Hashtag them this. Whatever you got to do, but do it all and close it out proper, and then say goodbye. Okay? Don't end with a weird just, and that's all. End of story. Doesn't that sound weird? It doesn't really work, right? Hello and goodbye is so important. So let's recap your teachables. Addressing the crowd. Get them on your side right off the bat. Get them interactive. Do something with them. Make them want to listen to you. Give them a reason to. Addressing the crowd is so important. Have a plan too as well. Being prepared. Remember, I'm going to say it. It's a teachable. Not preparing is preparing to fail. Say it with me. Not preparing is preparing to fail. Do your homework. And then when you're getting a million things to talk about, condense them. I like to make one sheets. I like to just bring stuff down because if you try and read stuff verbatim, it's crazy. So just try not to do that. Condense your material. Hellos and goodbyes. Also get your hellos right. Get your fillers right. Get your ends right too as well. Have a way to break the mic. Have a way to end and get off the mic too as well. Now, story. Oh, this is a good one. Big major competition, television competition that it's on major networks. I will not say the name of the competition, but here's a teachable moment on this one. And this did not happen to me. It's happened to me before, but it wasn't me where this one happened. So what happened was this. There was an X Game reporter, and he was doing an interview. He was doing an interview with one of the athletes. And he was chatting him up. And the reporter really wasn't paying attention to the competition, but when it was his turn to get on the mic, well, he was like, oh, okay, I'll get on the mic. So he had said to the person he was interviewing, right at the end of the interview, he said to him, and hey, good luck on your second run. That was his second run already. And he had told the reporter, he looked at the reporter on the mic, live house, on TV, that was my second run. How do you follow that as a reporter? You're not paying attention. The guy had already taken 2 runs. You thought it was his first run. You said that, and you blundered. The guy was never invited back. Never came back on that big of the stage. When you make that kind of mistake, you're not coming back. So pay attention, all right? That is go time. I hope you enjoyed addressing the crowd, being prepared, and your hellos and goodbye. It's go time.